Andrew. I hug Kelly as tightly as I can, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair. This moment contains our whole life, our past, our future, our dreams. I feel her fingers tremble, squeezing my palm, as if she opens them, I will disappear. 2 years is nothing when it comes to us, I tell her, trying to sound confident, although an anxious lump swells inside me. Is this true? 2 years. Time can change people, circumstances, and desires. But not us. We promised each other to be together, no matter what. She looks at me with her light brown eyes, in which tears tremble, but she smiles. Her fingers squeeze my palm tighter, as if they are afraid to release it. I'll wait for you, I promise, she answers quietly, and her voice trembles, but not from doubt, from the pain of separation. I run my hand over her cheek, remembering the warmth of her skin, the feeling of her breath next to me. I want to capture this moment in my memory, to hold it for as long as possible. A voice over the loudspeaker announces the final boarding call. I have no choice but to let her go. I slowly open my fingers and run my thumb over her wrist one last time. I love you, I say. I love you more, Kelly replies, and her smile becomes a little wider, but her eyes are shiny with tears. I know she's hurting just as much as I am. I take a few steps back and then turn around, not allowing myself to hesitate any longer. One more goodbye and I won't be able to leave. Every step feels heavy in your chest. Everything inside is screaming, stop, stay, but I know I can't. On the plane, I look out the window, watching the terminal disappear into the distance. Anxiety sits deep inside, like a quiet voice whispering that separation is always a test. I close my eyes and imagine how she walks out of the airport, how she will get into the car, how she will return home to our empty house. She loves me, I have no doubt about it. Upon arrival in Germany, the first thing I do is take out my phone and write to her. I miss you already. The answer comes almost instantly. Me too, my love. How did you get there? I smile. She's there. She's waiting. As I immerse myself in my work, I try not to think about how long 2 years will drag on. 24 months, 104 weeks, 730 days. When I signed the contract, it seemed like just numbers, but now, being in a foreign country, realizing that every day is minus 1 day with her, time suddenly took on weight. This contract in Germany is a rare opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime chance. The doctor exchange program opened the doors to one of the best clinics in Europe and gave me the chance to work with legendary surgeons whose names were mentioned in medical journals, whose research changed the principles of modern surgery. I knew that here I would have to work hard, study 10 times more than before, but it was a challenge that I accepted without hesitation. From the very first day, I plunged into the frantic rhythm of work. Morning planning, meeting at 6 in the morning cold, polished reports, quick analysis of errors, no unnecessary emotions. Long shifts in the operating room where every second could be critical. Sharp rays of surgical lamps, intense glances of colleagues, mechanically clear hand movements. There is no room for error here. Endless consultations with patients in a different language, which, although I was familiar, sometimes still sounded harsh and unusual. Studying new techniques at night, in rare hours of rest, when the eyes were stuck together and the body required sleep, but the mind greedily absorbed information. Every day brought new challenges. I felt like every duty was an exam, a test not only in front of my colleagues, but also in front of myself. Will I be able to maintain this pace? Do I deserve to be here? Do I need to prove anything? The answer was always the same, yes. Everything at the hospital went strictly according to schedule. Not the slightest chance of error. German precision in everything, from the sterility of the operating room, where the air seems to be saturated with tension, to the scrupulous calculations of anesthesia dosages, where every microscopic error could cost the patient's life. I'm used to strict standards, but here they were elevated to the absolute. Sometimes it seemed to me that even the walls here breathe rules. At times I found myself completely lost in my work. The days merged into one endless alternation of light and dark. Operating room, wards, work papers, operating room again. The city outside the windows lived its own life, but I was almost not a part of it. This helped to forget about the distance between me and Kelly and bring our meeting at least a little closer. I knew that this step would make me better in my profession, that every day spent here brings me closer to our dreams. But at night, in the silence of the hotel room, thoughts inevitably return to home. Only one lamp illuminates the room, casting a soft yellow light on the white sheets, and outside the window stretches a foreign city that never became mine. The rustle of the air conditioner, the barely audible hum of cars on the night streets, all this seems too distant, alien, not real. The present remained there, in our house, next to her. Kelly, our future. We dreamed of a child. I remember us talking about it for hours, imagining his first steps on the hardwood floor of our living room. We imagined Kelly singing lullabies to him and me reading bedtime stories, sitting next to the crib and watching his little fingers curl into fists. We have been preparing for this moment for a long time, saving every extra penny, thinking through everything down to the smallest detail, creating a financial cushion so that not a single worry about tomorrow would overshadow our marriage. We wanted the best for our child: stability, care, coziness. A house in Tennessee with a white picket fence and a wide wooden porch was part of that dream. We didn't just plan, we lived in anticipation. Long conversations in the evenings about what our child will be like. Will he inherit her smile, my eyes? Thoughts about how we will arrange the nursery together, choose toys, decide what wallpaper is suitable for the room. Soft pastel shades or something with patterns, funny animals, or classic colors. I imagine ourselves sitting on the porch one summer evening watching our son or daughter play in the yard. Maybe he will run barefoot on the freshly cut grass, or maybe she will ride a small bicycle, casting happy glances at us. And Kelly is nearby, laughing, holding my hand, leaning towards me, pressing her cheek to my shoulder. Every detail had meaning. Every dream was our common one. When I return, everything will be exactly like this, I convince myself, closing my eyes and breathing in the air, in which for some reason there is no smell of her at all. Kelly. I fall asleep hugging my pillow, soaked in Drew's scent. His scent is the last ghost of his presence, slipping away every day, but I still cling to it like a lifeline. I close my eyes and imagine that he is nearby, that his hot breath touches my neck, causing me to tremble, that his strong arms are hugging me, creating a cocoon of safety and warmth. But as soon as I reach out my hand, there is only emptiness, a cold, uncomfortable space in which he is not present. A dull melancholy fills your chest, like a black hole, sucking in all the joy and light. The whole world seems gray, as if someone has turned the colors of life to a minimum, leaving only monotonous shades of loneliness. Every morning starts the same. The alarm clock rings, but I put off waking up for a few minutes, hoping to linger in those moments where he is still with me, even if in a dream. Waking up in an empty bed is like becoming aware of his absence again, reliving the loss. I force myself to get up, throw off the blanket, and touch the cold floor with my feet. Try not to let loneliness consume me. Bathroom mirror. I look at my reflection, tired eyes, dark circles that cannot be hidden even with a layer of makeup. Wash your face, wash away the remnants of night dreams from your face, inhale the coolness of the water, as if awakening yourself to reality. The coffee is strong, scalding, with a slight bitterness, but even its taste is not able to return my former vigor. Everything is mechanical, like programmed actions. College helps to distract myself, but even among students, among colleagues, I feel lonely. Hundreds of voices, laughter, noisy conversations in the corridors, ringing bells between lectures, but all this seems to be through glass. The cafeteria where I sit alone, lazily stirring my cooling tea. Lectures where I take notes but don't get the point. The teaching room where colleagues discuss the latest news and I just nod, trying not to give away that mentally I am in a completely different place. Everything was different before. Drew would meet me after class, hug me, and ask how my day was. We cooked dinner together. He cut vegetables, I cooked pasta, and everything was accompanied by laughter, conversations, touching. Now there is only deaf silence in the house. Returning there is like stepping into emptiness, where there is no warmth, no smiles, no him. Only the echo of footsteps and an empty plate on the table, which there is no one to put next to it. I try not to show how hard it is for me, but there's always worry in Drew's voice. "It's okay, my love," I tell him, lying in bed, buried in the phone. "I'm just tired." "I miss you, Kelly. 2 years is nothing, right? Can we handle it?" "Of course," I answer, forcing myself to smile, even though he can't see. "We can handle it." But are we coping? Every night I wake up cold on his side of the bed. The blanket is bunched up, the sheet seems icy, and I instinctively reach for where its warmth used to be, but I only come across emptiness. I clench my fingers into a fist, trying to keep warm, but the feeling of emptiness only intensifies. Loneliness is especially acute at night. It presses, filling the room with a silence that seems almost tangible. Sometimes I find myself wanting to grab the phone and dial his number just to hear his voice, just to know that he is there, that he lives this life in parallel with me, and not in some other world, inaccessible thousands of miles away. I even click on his contact, look at the screen, wait for the desire to pass. But I understand that it is a deep night in Germany. What if I call, waking him up? He will immediately understand that something is wrong. He will hear it in my voice. He will catch the trembling, the pauses with which I select my words. And I don't want to upset him. I don't want him to know how hard these days, and especially nights, are for me. I don't want him to hear how I'm suffocating from longing for him, how I'm being pulled into depression. So I just put the phone back on the nightstand and lie down, staring at the ceiling. I listen to the sounds outside the window, the howling of the wind, the occasional passing car, the barking of a neighbor's dog. Everything sounds like it's in slow motion, like I'm watching my life from the outside, but not living it. My friends Lauren and Tess are calling me to unwind. "Kel, you urgently need to shake yourself up." Lauren plops down on my couch and makes a dramatic gesture with her hands. "You already have 'faithful but sad wife' written on your forehead. Do you really want to wake up one day and find yourself a walking embodiment of sadness?" "I don't need this," I wave away tiredly. Lauren rolls her eyes and points a finger at me. "What are you, a nun now? Please tell me you haven't become a fan of long-distance marital purity." "Lo, that's enough," Tess says quietly, although there is no particular conviction in her voice. Lauren just shrugs. "Just drink some wine with us and dance a little. Who knows, maybe you'll remember that life is not just about calling your husband and waiting for an answer to 'I miss you.'" I laugh, but it sounds forced. Something inside me resists her words. After all, this will all end soon. Every day brings us closer to the moment when Drew will finally return. I know that soon the date of his departure will be announced. Soon he will be given a ticket home, and then this torment will end. Soon I will again fall asleep in his arms, hear his voice not through the phone screen, but right next to me. This thought warms me and gives me hope. But for now, I can only wait. In rare moments of weakness, I look through old photos. I wash down my melancholy with wine, convincing myself that everything is fine. But Lauren's words stick in my head. "You look like a sad old lady, Kelly. When was the last time you had fun without thinking about your favorite? You urgently need to relax and feel alive." Something inside me is trembling. One evening, I made up my mind. Just sit. Just unwind. No nonsense. No questionable decisions. "Come on, you don't have to stay at home." Lauren claps her hands. "You like cocktails, don't you? Today is the eve of Valentine's Day. Tonight we will have a good rest, and tomorrow you will suffer from the absence of your beloved on a business trip on such a romantic day. So enjoy the moment while you can. We'll just sit at the bar, have one drink, and chat. I promise, no crazy parties." Tess smiles. "This will be fun, Kel. We're just going to relax, nothing like that." I take a deep breath and nod. Just an evening, nothing special. I put on a dress, a little brighter than usual, and put on a little makeup. In the mirror, I see a woman who was once more cheerful, lighter. I exhale, pick up my phone, and text Drew. "I love you, sweet dreams." I sent a message and put the phone in my purse. Not a word about the fact that I plan to go out for a walk with my friends. I don't want to worry him again. If I had known how this would all turn out, I would never have left the house that evening. Lauren, when I tried to lure Kelly to the party, I had a very specific goal to shake her up, remind her of what she used to be, and of course, annoy Drew a little. Oh, I knew he would be angry. He always got mad when Kelly did anything that didn't fit his ideal idea of a good life. This holy father with a medical degree looked at me with contempt, as if I were a pest that his precious bride needed to be kept away from. And yes, I didn't reciprocate his feelings. Drew always thought I was a bad influence on Kelly. In his opinion, I was frivolous, irresponsible, prone to destructive habits, and I just wanted to bring my friend back to life. Kelly used to be the most cheerful, bright, full of energy girl who could go on a trip in the middle of the night or hold a dance right on the street. But ever since this Mr. Right appeared in her life, it was as if she had changed. Everything about her became dull and subdued. Her freedom evaporated, and with it everything that made her truly alive. Now she followed him like an obedient lamb, always nodded approvingly, listened to his moral teachings, and even stopped arguing. Damn, he turned her into a nun. I was always annoyed by how Drew tried to make me look stupid and careless. He never missed an opportunity to make fun of my frequent changes of partners, always with that condescending smile of his. He seemed to enjoy embarrassing me with his caring remarks about the consequences of promiscuity. So what? Who even cares? We are adults, and I live as I want. I am not his patient for him to treat me with his moral teachings, and his eternal look from top to bottom, as if I am a person who does not understand that debauchery leads to problems. He is so correct, so ideal, like a walking advertisement for virtue. Where did he even come from? Where did Kelly find him? All so responsible, reasonable, the best choice, as her mother likes to say. That's the one I really can't stand. She looks at him as a savior, as if he is the only thing that can keep her daughter from the brink. But the abyss is not where they think. She is right here, in her frozen smile, in her dull eyes, in a life that is no longer her own. I'm sick of all this. Since she has been with him, our gatherings have turned into tea ceremonies. Cafes during the day, occasional dinners at someone's home. No risky situations, no excitement. Where is the adrenaline in this? Where is the passion? Nobody says that you need to rush into bed with the first person you meet, but damn it, where is at least the flirting, the easy games to remember that you are alive? I don't want Kelly to become another subdued wife whose happiness is Friday night watching TV shows under the blanket. Before Drew, Kelly was very different. She shone, attracted attention, and loved parties. She and I had the best nights. Dancing until the morning, bartenders who treated us to cocktails, and most importantly, that sparkle in her eyes. She was not afraid to be daring. She was not afraid of taking risks. And then Drew came, and it all disappeared, as if she had been replaced. Before she started dating Mr. Perfect, she had Shane. They were friends, he looked after her, and I'll be damned if I didn't see how he looked at her with hunger, with greed, with that very spark that you can't fake. Why didn't she choose him? This is a man, I understand, bright, charismatic, a real alpha. I still don't know what happened between Drew and Shane, but once she started dating Drew, their friendship was over. No wonder. I think the problem is that Shane couldn't come to terms with the fact that his best friend snatched such a woman from under his nose without even giving him a chance to taste her. Oh, I'm sure he dreamed of spending the night with her one day to find out if she was really as damn good as he imagined. And do you know what's most offensive? I think Kelly wanted to try it too, but didn't give herself the chance. And now Kelly sits at home devoted, boring, faithful, like a porcelain figurine on a dusty shelf. She turned her life into waiting, into endless sitting by the phone, catching every tone, every message from her husband, who is now somewhere thousands of kilometers away. But not today. Today, everything will be different. Today, she will come with us. I see her in knitted cardigan, comfortable lounge pants, her hair pulled back into a messy bun. She has almost disappeared into this cozy cocoon of loneliness, but I will not let her disappear completely. Today, I will get her out of this voluntary prison, where the walls are her fears and the bars are her own beliefs. Life is not just a clock ticking waiting for a call to ring. Life is movement, laughter, crazy decisions, nights that end at dawn. And if in order to remind her of this, I have to push her a little, well, I'm ready. I can already see how we enter the club, how she is shy at first, and then gets into the rhythm. I'll buy her her favorite cocktail that she hasn't tried in 2 years. I'll find a guy who will look at her the way she deserves. And tomorrow she will be a devoted wife again. But at least today she will remember what it is to live. Callie. I'm not thirsty, I say, but Lauren is already handing me a glass, not taking no for an answer. Are you afraid of losing control? She urges, her lips stretching into a predatory grin. I sigh and take my first sip, just to get them to leave me alone. The sweet and sour taste of alcohol leaves a slight burning sensation on the tongue. The music is blaring, the laughter is louder than usual, and the neon lights fill the room with a blur. Somewhere in the background, faces flash, someone has already started dancing, and the smells of expensive perfume, alcohol, and something spicy, slightly bitter, are mixed in the air. I feel a little dizzy, but I'm still in control. Everything is fine. It's just another evening. Just one evening. That's it, good girl. Lauren grins and winks at Tess, who just shrugs. Relax, we're not here to make you suffer, Lauren adds, refilling my glass. At least once during all this time, just be yourself. Not a wife, not a devoted companion, but the Kelly I knew before. I try to argue, but instead I take another sip. This is probably not the end of the world. A slight pulsation in my temples reminds me that the wine is already starting to take effect and helps me relax. Out of nowhere, Shane appears next to me, his confident smile instantly tightening my nerves. He always moved with that casual ease that made him so attractive. In this club, he is like a duck to water, completely confident in himself. I, on the contrary, feel out of place. I haven't seen you so relaxed for a long time, he remarks, carefully studying my face. I'm not relaxed, I mutter, looking away. His presence suddenly makes the air in the room thicker, heavier. I don't like the way he looks at me. He doesn't change. The same eyes, the same confidence with which he was used to taking everything from life. Wasn't he always like this? I remember us before Drew, before everything changed. Only he was missing here. If Drew finds out, the thought chills me. In the 5 years of our marriage, I have never given him a reason to be jealous. And if I ever wanted to get on his nerves a little, I definitely wouldn't choose Shane for this. I don't know why they ended their friendship, but Drew wouldn't hear of it. His lips pressed into a thin line at the mere mention of Shane's name, and an evil shadow flashed in his eyes. I never asked, but I always felt that there was something more behind their quarrels than just different views on life. Maybe it's because of me. This thought suddenly makes my heart beat faster. No, it can't be. Yes, Shane courted me, but in fact he never moved out of the friend zone, so it would be stupid to think that I became the cause of conflict for male friendship. Relax, Kelly. Shane's voice interrupts my thoughts. He leans closer, almost touching my shoulder. Or does your husband keep you on such a short leash that even dancing is prohibited? I take a step back, but something is trembling inside me. A feeling that I tried not to notice all these years. I feel his gaze on me, his smirk, that hint in his voice that I understand all too well. He always knew how to play with people, how to make them feel insecure. Lauren watches us, narrowing her eyes slyly. Let's drink to old friends, she says, handing us new glasses. I automatically take mine, forgetting how alcohol affects me. Shane. I watch Kelly without looking away. Her movements become smoother, as if a warm wave picks up and carries away all the stiffness. Gestures are softer, more relaxed, fingers lazily slide along the glass, leaving vague traces on it. Her gaze increasingly lingers in emptiness, unfocused, thoughtful, as if she is no longer here, but somewhere far away, in a place where the rules no longer apply. Alcohol melts her boundaries, makes her less restrained. The same correct, unshakable Kelly that she was for the last 5 years is almost gone. I see how she is still clinging to the remnants of self-control, trying to maintain her posture, breathe evenly, look at us with the usual restraint. But with each new sip, her attempts look weaker, and this internal struggle is already turning into a simple formality. She doesn't yet realize how far she's come. For now, but I know that. I feel the moment when the taut strings in her soul begin to give in, one after another. I don't rush things, I don't interfere. Let everything go as usual, naturally, easily. What luck I had today. You're so beautiful when you smile, I say, sitting closer. My voice sounds warm, but there is a cold calculation in my eyes. She laughs, but her laugh is nervous. She knows I can smell her. She knows that I can see her cheeks turning pink. She knows she should leave, but she stays. She feels this tension between us, but pretends that it is not there. I hand her another cocktail. She hesitates, but takes it. Her fingers linger on the glass for a moment, and I notice how she hesitates. Just one word, and she would have refused. But I don't give her that choice. Relax, you're not betraying Drew, you're just having fun. My voice is soft, almost silky. I touch her hand, a light, casual gesture. She doesn't pull away. She no longer resists. Alcohol erases boundaries. I lean closer, feeling her scent, this light floral trail mixed with notes of alcohol. Just recently at one of the parties I met Lorraine, and she talked about the separation of these two lovebirds. She behaved like an exemplary wife for too long, played this boring routine for too long. I feel something struggling within her, but it is a weak, doomed struggle. She does not understand that her choice was made long before this evening. It's just an evening, it's okay, I whisper to her. She nods, not knowing that with this nod she signs her verdict. Her eyes reflect vague doubt, but her mind is already clouded. She simply cannot think, cannot analyze. I remember how this woman ruined my friendship with Drew. I just made a bad joke about her. A few words in the company of friends, something dirty, masculine, unvarnished. I said that women are the same, that they all betray sooner or later, that there is no point in being faithful to one. Why doesn't Drew share? Why hold on to a woman who, like everyone else, will leave one day? I didn't mean anything serious, just a stupid drunk joke. But it became a disaster. Drew hasn't forgotten. He chose not his old faithful friend, but her. He said it was love at first sight, that Kelly was special. Well, let's see how much. I smile, running my finger along the rim of her glass. I feel like she's almost there. I don't care, I don't have anything to lose anymore. I just want to see how far she's willing to go tonight to test the limits of her devotion to her husband. I remember the way Drew looked at me the last time we spoke. There was no hatred in his gaze, only icy contempt, and I knew he had chosen a side. Not me, her. Well, so be it. But I always played on my terms, and if I am destined to lose, then I will do it gracefully. Tonight my time comes. Callie. The head is heavy, as if filled with lead, the body is cottony, unyielding. Every cell is permeated with a sticky, all-consuming fear that tightens the chest with an iron hoop. I open my eyes, but the darkness does not bring relief. On the contrary, it presses, squeezes, does not allow me to breathe. Your throat is dry, your tongue feels like it's covered in a layer of dust, and your stomach is twisting into a painful knot. A heavy, cloying smell hangs in the air, a mixture of alcohol, sweat, and something else, tart, unpleasant, alien. I blink, trying to concentrate, but my mind is stuck. My thoughts are confused. Time is spreading in sticky spots. Where am I? What's happened? I slowly realize that this is not my room, not my bed. The blanket has been thrown to the floor, the sheets are rumpled, as if a battle had been fought here, and from this sight a new, icy fear rises inside. I try to get up, but the world around me is swaying. The walls seem to shift, threatening to close in around me. Nausea rises in my throat, and I stumble towards the bathroom. My knees hit the cold tiles with a thud, my fingers clutching the edge of the toilet. The vomiting comes in waves, convulsive spasms, turning me inside out until my stomach is empty. I take in ragged, greedy gulps of air, but even it seems dirty, spoiled. Trembling, I rise, clinging to the sink, and meet my gaze in the mirror. I wish I hadn't done this. The eyes are inflamed, red, with a clouded, dull look. His hair is tangled, strands sticking to his sweaty forehead. The lips were swollen as if after long, rough kisses. I look at this woman in front of me and I don't recognize her. It's not me. Not who I was yesterday. Flashbacks hit like slaps in the face, sharp, burning, erratic. Pictures flash before your eyes, jumbled like a torn film. Laughter, music, lights, colorful flashes of light dancing on the walls. Everything is warm, fuzzy, unstable. Lauren and Tess laugh, whisper something to each other, then disappear into the crowd, heading to the toilet. I'm left alone. The music vibrates inside me, but the world has already floated like a boat on choppy waters. The floor under my feet loses its solidity, my movements are inhibited, as if there is thick glass between me and reality. Are you feeling unwell? Voice, male, low. Shane. I turn my head, but the features of his face are blurred, as if someone had smeared them on a canvas with a brush. The shadows fall wrong, the light is too bright, and his eyes are black spots in the twilight. Let's go out into the air. I don't answer. I can't. I just follow him, as if on autopilot. The cool night air hits your face, but does not bring relief. On the contrary, the head is spinning even more. The body becomes alien, cottony, as if not mine. I'll take you home, he says, and his voice seems soft, enveloping, like a distant echo. I nod, or maybe I just don't resist. Flash. The car door opens. I sat down. And that's all. Excerpts. Laughter. Whisper in the ear. Words are like knives. You're not so correct, are you? You are all the same. My hands were heavy. My body did not obey me. It betrayed me in the most terrible way. No. I cover my mouth with my hands to keep from screaming. I close my eyes, but the darkness inside me is stronger. Panic grows in your chest. Despair rises in hot waves. Drew, how will I look him in the eye? How can I live with this? I betrayed him. I betrayed myself. Shame, shame, disgust roll in, flooding the consciousness in waves. I'm a cheater. I'm a cheater. I am a woman of easy visual. The words that I have been afraid of all my life are now mine and about me. Now this is my truth. I can't stay here. Every nerve is taut like a string, and the heart is beating so loudly that the roar reverberates in your temples. The air seems heavy, viscous, like a thick fog saturated with fear. I grab my clothes and frantically pull them over my trembling body. My fingers cling to the fabric, get tangled, and the zipper on the dress resists, as if it doesn't want to let me go. I fasten it with a jerk. The movements are sharp, ragged, as if I needed to rip off someone else's touches. The walls are moving, pressing. I'm suffocating. I don't think anymore. I'm just running. I slip out of the room, almost stumbling, and throw myself out into the dimly lit corridor. The bare floor is cold on my bare feet, but I don't stop. Where is the exit? Where to run? Rushing past the mirror, I involuntarily catch a reflection out of the corner of my eye. Just a moment, but it's enough. Scared, lost, devastated. Everything I had built over the years collapsed overnight. A new attack of nausea squeezes my chest. I grab the railing, convulsively sucking in air, but it seems dirty, poisonous. I'm throwing up again, but this time it's not from alcohol, from myself. My hand shakes as I take out my phone. The screen flashes with unread messages. Drew. His name burns your eyes. How are you, my love? Are you home already? Why don't you answer? I can't. Not now. Never. I don't know where to go, but I know one thing: I have to disappear. I need to survive. But before I do that, I have to find a way to forget. Forget that this night was reality. I'm driving home. Andrew. The road home seemed endless. I looked out the window, watching the clouds spread out below, my heart beating in anticipation. 2 years. 2 long years away from her. But now all this is in the past. Now I'm going home. To Kelly. I imagined her face when she saw me. Surprise, joy, tears because I didn't tell her that I was returning earlier. I wanted to arrange a surprise for Valentine's Day. We have always celebrated this day in a special way. Champagne, her favorite strawberries and chocolate, long conversations by candlelight, and then a night full of passion. She always laughed and said it was corny, but I knew she liked it. I imagined walking into our house, quietly placing my suitcase by the door, and hearing her voice somewhere inside. She will turn around, and delight will flash in her eyes. I saw it so clearly that my heart sank with happiness. But something was bothering me. She didn't respond to messages. It was strange. We are always in touch, even with a time difference. Usually, she didn't let go of the phone. Maybe she's busy. Maybe she fell asleep. No, something's wrong. I tried to brush off the anxiety, but it was firmly lodged inside. I knew my Kelly. I knew that she always waited for my messages and answered, albeit briefly, but always, and now silence. But no, this can't be true. Not my Kelly. She's different. The plane began to descend. I took a deep breath, clutching the gift in my pocket, a thin gold necklace with her name on it. For the last 2 years, I have carried it with me as a reminder of our home, of her. Now it will be back where it should be, on her neck. I will leave the airport, get into a taxi, and see her in half an hour. She will throw herself into my arms, and all doubts will disappear. Everything will be the same as before. That's how it should be. But why does anxiety grow in my chest? Why did everything seem to freeze inside? There are no new messages in your phone yet. I check the connection, it works. I dial her number again. The beeps go off, but there is no answer. I squeeze the phone in my hand and force myself to breathe evenly. Maybe she left him in another room. Maybe she just doesn't hear him. A taxi rushes through the morning city. The lights of the lanterns are still reflected in the windows, running in light stripes across the skin. I close my eyes, trying to calm down, but something inside doesn't allow me to relax. Our house appeared ahead. It looked the same as I left it 2 years ago, cozy, warm, familiar. But the light inside was not on. I get out of the car, place my suitcase at the threshold, and slowly reach for the doorbell. My heart aches. I don't know what I'm waiting for, but the waiting is becoming unbearable. Kelly sits on the couch in a bathrobe, with a towel rolled up on her head, just as I remember her. But something has subtly changed. Her eyes are not the eyes I am used to looking into. They are filled with something alien, extinct, and for a moment, it seems to me that I am looking at a stranger. I didn't have time to think. As soon as I got home, I immediately rushed to the bathroom. I needed to wash it off. Dirt, disgrace, betrayal. I turned on the water, so hot it burned my skin, but even that didn't help. I stood under the streams and sobbed, realizing that no amount of water would rid me of this dirt. She was inside, in my soul, in my mind, in every corner of my being. I didn't know how much time had passed. Maybe a minute, maybe an hour. I got out of the shower without even having time to change my clothes and sank onto the sofa, wrapped in a towel. Does it matter what I'm wearing? Could clothes cover up what I was feeling? The silence at home was unbearable. I closed my eyes, gripping the edge of the sofa with my fingers. We need to get together. We need to think about how to continue living. But my thoughts raced chaotically, turning my mind into a labyrinth with no way out. I hugged myself, but the cold did not go away. He was inside. Suddenly, I heard a sound that made me freeze. Door. The key is in the lock. This sound broke the silence, pulled me out of the stream of thoughts. Everything inside shrank, my breathing froze. Drew. My heart sank. I've been waiting for him for so long. I dreamed about this meeting, counted the days, imagined throwing myself into his arms. But now I couldn't even get up from the couch. He entered. His eyes searched for me, and when he saw me, his face lit up with relief. He took a step towards me, but stopped. Something in my gaze made him freeze. I looked at him and realized that I couldn't lie. I can't utter trivial excuses. I can't hide behind ridiculous phrases. Just yesterday I was his loving wife, but today I was a different person, a woman I hate. Kelly. His voice is warm, filled with joy and slight bewilderment. He takes another step forward, but I don't move. I can't. My body felt like it was bound by invisible chains. I feel a shiver running through my skin and tears welling up in my eyes again. How do I say this? How to say it out loud? I open my mouth, but the words get stuck in my throat like stones. Just say it. Just admit it. The voice sounds in your head, but it's so alien, so distant. Drew comes closer, leans towards me, trying to look into my eyes. Are you okay? His palm touches my shoulder, and this touch breaks me. I'm losing my temper. No. Whisper, then a sob. Then a wave of sobs, overwhelming me completely. Drew, I. He sits down next to me, confused, worried, but still not understanding what abyss I'm about to push him. What's happened? Kelly, you're scaring me. I cover my face with my hands, as if hoping that if I don't see him, everything will disappear. But no, it won't go away. It's here, between us, like an abyss. His face freezes. The silence becomes unbearable, and I know that our world will only collapse now. No, it collapsed yesterday. It seems to me that I understood everything without words. Her eyes told me more than any excuse could, but I needed to hear it, and she needed to say it. I felt like my world was collapsing, but I could do nothing but sit and wait for her to destroy it completely. I sit opposite her, my heart pounding in my chest, but I wait. She does not hide her gaze, does not try to soften the blow. And this is the worst thing. She is going to tell the whole truth, without embellishment, without trying to justify herself. I see how her fingers curl into a fist, how she breathes heavily, getting ready to speak. It's me, she says hoarsely. Just me. No one else. I will not make excuses. I will not look for those to blame. My body tenses. I feel like everything inside is turning over. I don't want to hear this, but I need it. She continues. I can't say that it was an accident. I can't say I was forced. Yes, alcohol. Yes, weakness. But no one pushed me into the abyss. I did it myself, step by step, and I understood what I was doing. Maybe I didn't fully understand the consequences, but I knew that I was crossing the line. I swallow, clenching my fists in my lap, but remain silent. Something breaks inside me, but I let her talk. I remember everything. Her voice trembles, but she doesn't stop. I remember how I agreed to have another glass, how I allowed words to confuse me, how the boundaries slowly blurred. I didn't leave, I didn't say no. I just allowed it. And if you want to know what I felt empty. Pain, contradiction within, but none of this stopped me. She closes her eyes for a second, taking a deep breath before continuing. I don't blame Shane. I don't blame anyone. It wasn't against my will. Just me. Only my betrayal. Only my weakness. She looks at me, waiting for a reaction. I feel my chest tightening. It hurts to breathe. It's tearing me apart from the inside. But I don't move. I don't say a word. Because I'm still trying to understand that the woman I loved, the one I came back for, was the one who destroyed our world. Forgive me, she adds in a whisper. I know there is no forgiveness, but I couldn't help but tell you. I need you to know. And I know. Now I know everything. And this truth is worse than any lie. The silence between us becomes heavy, oppressive. I look at her, but in front of me is no longer the Kelly I knew. In front of me is a strange woman, and her confession sounds like a sentence. I look away because I can't see her face anymore. Bitterness rises from within, and I feel like I'm about to suffocate. I get up. I need to go out. I need to get out of here, or I'll say something I'll regret. Drew. Her voice breaks, but I don't answer. I grab my jacket and go to the door. Shane. I'm lying in bed, idly texting Lauren. The phone screen illuminates the room with a soft bluish light. The cigarette burns out in the ashtray, leaving a thin stream of smoke in the air. I feel great. The mood is good. The evening went better than expected. Lauren, I take it you received your Valentine's Day gift, even though it was late. I grin as I type my answer. Shane, oh yeah, and let me tell you, it was better than all the socks and cologne I've ever gotten. Lauren, ha, Tess was nervous, by the way. She couldn't find Kelly after the club. Poor thing was panicking, like she was missing from the Mexican cartel. Shane, Tess is too impressionable. I should have said that Kelly just decided to change her life, drastically. Lauren, you're terrible. Shane, I know, that's why you adore me. Lauren, we should meet up sometime too. I'm just as good as Kelly. Maybe you should try something new. I chuckle, shaking my head. Lauren has always loved to play cat and mouse. Shane, SHH, don't be jealous. I'm a multifaceted person. I have time for everyone. Lauren, how generous. Okay, honey, right when you want to have some fun. I put my phone on the nightstand, stretch, and close my eyes. Relaxation penetrates every cell of the body. There's a knock on the door. I open one eye slightly, grunting in surprise. Did someone come this early? I get out of bed, pull on my pants, and head to the door. Looks like Kelly came to her senses and came back for more. I threw into the void, grinning. I open the door. Hit. The world goes dark for a second. What the... Drew. I have no idea how I ended up at Shane's door. At one point, I was just there. As my therapist later explained, the anger had to find its way out. I don't even remember how I left the house, how I got into the car, how I drove halfway through the city. I only remember that my heart was beating wildly, and a dark, viscous rage was pulsating in my chest, which demanded an outlet. So many emotions over these 2 years, I restrained myself, worked tirelessly, crossed out days on the calendar, counting them until I returned. I restrained myself like a man, although there were many offers from new German colleagues. I didn't even allow myself to think about it. I did not give in to weakness, did not seek comfort in the arms of others. I knew I had Kelly. I had confidence in her, in us. And she didn't just admit such a thought. She realized it. I was silent when she gave me this bomb. I was afraid of harming her at that moment when she was destroying me. I swallowed every word, gritted my teeth, and let her finish me off with this dirty confession. And then the bomb exploded. Shane opened the door. His smug grin disappeared at the same moment, but not before I took a step forward, unable to contain the surging emotions. Memories flashed before my eyes. We have known each other since childhood. Together they climbed construction sites, fought with boys from the neighboring area, and covered each other in front of their parents. In college, Shane met Kelly first. He said that this was his new goal, but without much pressure, he was just hanging out in the friend zone for now. We discussed this in a friendly manner, without jealousy, without tension. He didn't mind when it became clear that things were serious between me and Kelly. But one day, during a party, he revealed his crowning wisdom that all women are the same, that sooner or later everyone will cheat, and that if that's the case, then why don't the three of us try something? I remember freezing, and then for the first time my anger came out in physical form. The conversation ended instantly. Kelly was special to me. She was the only one. From that moment, we no longer communicated. And now I'm standing in front of him again. What déjà vu? I left again silently. The anger did not subside, but I knew that if I stayed even a second longer, the consequences would be irreversible. I went outside, breathed in the cool air, but didn't feel any relief. Everything inside was empty, as if I had left a part of myself there on Shane's doorstep. I had nowhere to go. I didn't have a family. My parents died in a car accident when I was 15. The only person who has always been like family to me, other than Kelly, is her mother. She loved me like a son. She said that her daughter met a better man in her life than she could have wished for. She always admired our love and saw in me a reliable companion for Kelly, a support. I didn't know how she would react. I didn't want her to find out. But when I arrived at her house and saw her open the door, her look told me that she already knew. Drew, there was pain in her voice, not anger, not condemnation, but real grief. I couldn't speak. He just sat down on the threshold and covered his face with his hands. How I wanted her to say that it was all a dream, that I would wake up and see Kelly next to me the way she was before. She sat down next to me and hugged me so warmly and motherly. I don't know what to say, I breathed. I don't know how to live now. She patted my back, sighing heavily. Kelly made a mistake, Drew. But it doesn't change who you are. You are strong, and you can do it. But before you decide what to do next, let yourself feel the pain first. If you drown it out now, it will stay with you forever. She looked at me with warm concern, but there was firmness in her eyes. You need to talk to someone, Drew. I'm not talking about friends or me. You should contact a specialist. This is not a weakness, it is a necessity. There is too much pain, too much emotion, and if you don't release it correctly, it will tear you apart from the inside. I was silent, but I knew that she was right. She looked at me carefully, as if weighing something in her head, and then said quietly, I'm going to Kelly's. No matter what she does, she needs help too. You need to understand why this happened and how to live with it further. She is my daughter, and I cannot leave her alone at this moment. I looked up at her. There was no condemnation, there were no excuses, only a firm, conscious decision. Stay here, she continued. This house has always felt like home to you. Find strength, Drew. Understand yourself, and please don't make decisions you'll regret later. Helen. When the phone rang, Helen didn't pay attention at first. The evening was quiet and familiar. She drank tea, wrapped in a warm blanket, thinking about plans for the weekend. But when the screen flashed her daughter's name, something inside her tightened. It was late. It was rare for Kelly to call at this hour for no reason. I picked up the phone, and from the very first words I realized that something terrible had happened. Kelly's voice trembled, her breathing was ragged, as if after a long cry. Mom, I need to tell you something. And then the words flowed out randomly, breaking down in sobs. I listened without interrupting. My heart was squeezing more and more. I knew how much Kelly loved Andrew. I saw this love, I saw how he looked at her, how carefully he held her hand. This was a man who could be trusted with my daughter. But now she's broken it. Herself. I couldn't believe what Kelly was saying. The mind refused to accept this. But the heart understood, because I once went through this myself. I remembered that evening. I was still married to Kelly's father at the time. Little Kelly was sleeping with a high fever, and her father was at a company party. It didn't seem strange to me at the time. I trusted him. We were a family. But later, when the truth came out, everything changed. One day, once, secretary, alcohol, excuses, tears. I didn't mean to. It doesn't mean anything. It was a mistake. But mistakes ruin lives. I couldn't forgive. We divorced, and I raised Kelly myself. I no longer believed in love. But despite the pain, she did not forbid him to see his daughter, because I knew that he loved her, and Kelly loved him. Now, listening to Kelly's confession, I felt the past covering me with renewed vigor. I couldn't protect my daughter from pain, but right now the most important thing was that she was suffering too. She ruined her life, but remained my child, and she needed me. Daughter, I said quietly when Kelly finally fell silent, I'll come to you. You are not alone. We'll figure it out. I knew Andrew was going through hell right now. He lost not only his wife, but also his faith in her, in their family. He had no one but me. I understood his pain, but now I couldn't choose a side. My daughter needed her mother. I started packing my suitcase. Tomorrow morning, I will be next to her. I will help her get through this, even if she herself doesn't believe it's possible. And maybe it's time for me to stop living in the past too. Tess Harris. I called Lauren and said we needed to meet. I felt uneasy, my thoughts were confused, and the answers needed clarification. We agreed to have coffee in a small cafe in the city center. I wanted to find out what happened that evening, the night before Valentine's Day. Where did Kelly go? We wrote to her, but she didn't answer. I myself vaguely remember that evening. And then Kelly sent a dry message, something about how she was at home and everything was fine with her. But something was wrong. Lauren arrived, as always, carefreely waving her purse, with a smug smile on her face, as if this conversation did not bother her. Well, are you in shock too? She drawled, sitting down opposite me. St. Kelly had a passionate night with Shane. She turned out to be the same, and maybe even worse, than me. Or, more accurately, how Andrew perceived me. I clutched the cup of coffee in my hands, trying to digest her words. Lauren, do you even understand what happened? My voice was shaking, but I tried to stay calm. This is not just a mistake, not just a party. We had to look after her. She hasn't had a drink for a very long time. We knew she wasn't okay, and we still left her to Shane's mercy. Lauren rolled her eyes and leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs. Oh, Tess, just don't start. She is a grown woman. It's her choice. I'm not her nanny. I clenched my teeth. Yes, Kelly is an adult, but we were her friends, and we knew that alcohol affected her differently. We knew she was vulnerable, and instead of taking her home, we just left her with him, with Shane, and they themselves left either for more or to go to the toilet. Damn, I don't remember. This man has always disgusted me. His eternally hungry looks, as if he evaluates every woman as a commodity. His way of speaking, touching, smiling, everything about him was predatory. Kelly became his victim. We failed her. We shouldn't have left her, I whispered, more to myself than to Lauren. Lauren shrugged. Listen, stop being dramatic. Yes, it was unexpected, but you know that if she didn't want it, nothing would have happened. I felt rage overcome me. How could she talk about this so easily, as if nothing bad happened? Lauren, can you even hear yourself? My voice became stronger. This is not just an accident. We abandoned her. We left her where she didn't belong, and now she has ruined her life. Lauren twirled the cup in her hands, then looked at me and grinned. Or maybe she just wanted to do it. Have you ever thought that maybe she's just tired of being the perfect wife? I stood up so abruptly that the chair creaked on the tiled floor. You're sick, Lauren. I don't want to listen to this anymore. Lauren grinned as if I had said something funny. She gave me a sly look, then looked away, looking out the window. You're just jealous that you've never had such a sincere love like hers. Everyone will just take you as sex for the evening, I finally said. I turned around and left the cafe, feeling myself shaking with anger and guilt. Because despite everything she said, I knew the truth. I knew we had failed Kelly. Mom has arrived. I waited for her appearance with anxiety and fear, but when she crossed the threshold, her face was calm. She didn't say anything, just hugged me tightly. I felt her warmth, but I couldn't bring myself to relax. She didn't say a word, she just took care of me. She cooked food and cleaned the apartment, as if she wanted to surround me with a familiar, homely atmosphere. I watched her, but did not dare to start a conversation. It seemed to me that all I had to do was say a word, and all my guilt would flood in with renewed vigor. Several days passed. She tried not to put pressure on me, but her presence filled the house with some special heaviness. Her look spoke more than any words. There was so much love in him, but at the same time so much pain that it made me feel even worse. I tried to avoid her gaze, but one evening, as we sat at the kitchen table, I realized the moment had come. Tell me, my mother said quietly, covering my hand with hers. Her palm was warm, but I felt it trembling. I swallowed, clenching my palms. I was ashamed, but I knew that if anyone could listen to me without judgment, it would be her. It all started because I was sad a lot and missed Andrew. Lauren persuaded me to go with them. My voice was shaking. I told her everything, as if in confession. About how I decided to go out and relax, about how I didn't discuss it with Drew, how I drank, how I lost control, how Shane showed up and took advantage of the moment of being alone with me when my friends went to the ladies' room. How bad I felt the next morning, how I couldn't breathe from shame, how I was throwing up from the realization of what I had done. When I finished, there was silence. I didn't dare look up, but I felt that my mother was looking at me. My heart was pounding in my chest. It seemed to me that a little more, and I would simply disappear under the weight of her silence. Do you know what awaits you now? She finally asked quietly. I nodded, feeling tears welling in my eyes. If you want to save your family, my mother continued, you will have to fight. Fight for Andrew. beg, kneel if necessary. You broke his trust, and if you want to get him back, you'll have to go through hell. And you must be ready for anything, because forgiveness is not a gift, but hard work, and if there is even a tiny chance, you must fight for it. I sobbed, clenching my fingers into fists. I knew it. I knew there was no easy way out now. There are no words that could correct what happened. Only actions. Only actions. What if he doesn't forgive me? I whispered. Mom sighed heavily. Then you'll have to learn to live with it and accept the consequences of your choice. I covered my face with my hands and burst into tears. She came up to me and hugged me, allowing me to throw out all the pain. I'm with you, she whispered, but you must be ready to atone for your guilt. For real. I didn't know if I had the strength, but I knew that if I didn't try, I would lose Andrew forever. Tess. I plucked up my courage and decided that I needed to meet Kelly. I understood how hard it was for her right now, and I knew that she needed support, even if she didn't realize it herself. But most of all, I was tormented by guilt. Guilt for being a part of that night. Maybe not a direct participant, but one of the culprits. We should have taken care of her, but instead we let her stay in Shane's hands. I texted Kelly, I need to talk to you. Let's meet. She didn't answer right away, but a couple of hours later, she sent a short, "Come." When I entered her apartment, I was immediately overcome by a wave of tension. She looked tired, haggard, with dark circles under her eyes. Unfinished tea was cooling on the table in front of her, and next to her lay a crumpled napkin soaked with tears. "Hello," I said hesitantly, sitting down opposite. Kelly smiled faintly and nodded, but her eyes showed no warmth. "Tess, if you came to say that everything is my fault, then don't worry, I already know." I swallowed. It was painful to hear, but I couldn't let her take all the blame. "No, I came to say that we are all to blame," I admitted quietly. "Kelly, I can't stop thinking about that night, about how we failed you." She looked up at me, in which pain and surprise flashed. "Did you fail? Tess, it's not your fault. It was my choice. I myself allowed this to happen. But we shouldn't have left you alone. I couldn't restrain myself and clenched my fists. We pulled you out of the house. We, knowing that you didn't drink alcohol, didn't stop you. We should have taken care of you, taken you home, not let you be alone with him." Kelly smiled bitterly and shook her head. "Shane didn't force me, Tess. He didn't force me to do anything. I did it myself." I closed my eyes for a second, trying to hold back the tears. I lowered my head, feeling the weight of her words crushing me. I came to admit my guilt, but I realized that Kelly blames herself much more than anyone could judge her. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. At that moment, the door in the hallway quietly opened, and I heard someone putting bags on the floor. It was Kelly's mom. She returned from the store and, noticing us, froze for a second and then came closer, as if debating whether to intervene. "Girls," she said softly, "I didn't want to interrupt you, but I think I should hear it too." She sat down next to him, her gaze full of care, but also concern. I saw how she looked at her daughter with deep love and sadness. We talked for a long time about how Kelly could fix everything, about how hard it is to regain trust, but that it's still worth fighting, that if there is a chance, even the slightest, it should not be missed, and that forgiveness is not just words, but a long journey that Kelly will have to go through. Andrew. Several days passed. I tried to hold on, tried to drown out the pain, but it did not go away. It was as if a ball of anger, resentment, and betrayal had settled inside, which only grew larger every day. I understood that this couldn't go on for long. I needed to do something. I opened my laptop and started looking for therapists. Never before had I thought that I might need the help of a specialist, but now I realized that I couldn't handle it on my own. Helen was right. I couldn't just forget. I couldn't ignore this fire inside. I was afraid that I might do something worse than I did to Shane. I felt like I was on the edge, and if I didn't pull myself together, the consequences could be unpredictable. After a long search, I found one specialist who seemed reliable to me, Dr. Mark Williams. Reviews said that he knows how to help understand the most difficult emotions. I made an appointment for a consultation. When the day of the meeting arrived, I got in the car and drove to his office, trying to figure out what I would say in advance. But all my thoughts were confused. I entered the office. An elderly man, gray-haired, wearing glasses, with kind but attentive eyes, nodded to me and pointed to a chair. "Andrew, right. Come in, have a seat." I sat down with my hands on my knees. The room was quiet, and for some reason, this was even more stressful. "How can I help?" he asked calmly. I swallowed. "How can you tell someone that your life is ruined? That the woman you trusted unconditionally turned out to be completely different from who you thought she was? My wife cheated on me," I finally squeezed out. Dr. Williams nodded without interrupting. I continued. "I loved her from the first day, from the first sight, from the first smile. We went through everything through our student years, our first rented apartments together, financial difficulties, and the search for ourselves. We built our life step by step. I always knew that she was mine and I was hers. 2 years in Germany on a contract was the last step before we had to start a new chapter. After my business trip, we planned to have a child, finally settle down completely, buy a house, and create the family we dreamed of. We put it off for the sake of stability in order to give our future child the best. We talked about it so much and dreamed about it, and I left, thinking that everything was going according to plan, and then I returned unexpectedly. I wanted to surprise her, but in the end, a surprise awaited me. She confessed. No excuses, no attempts to hide the truth. She just told me everything as it is, and I realized that our whole life collapsed in an instant. He thoughtfully clasped his fingers and asked, "How did you feel at that moment?" I chuckled. "It's like I was hit. It was as if everything I knew had suddenly disappeared. It's like I've been an idiot all these years." Anger? Yes. Pain? Certainly. Feelings of guilt? I shuddered. This question took me by surprise. Why should I feel guilty? I frowned. Dr. Williams looked at me intently. Because when something important falls apart, we often try to find an explanation, even if it lies beyond our responsibility. Have you ever thought that you might be missing something in your relationship? That there might have been signals that you didn't notice? I clenched my fists. No, I couldn't accept it. I did everything for her, I answered sharply. I worked, I cared, I was faithful. What else was I supposed to do? "Sometimes it's not a matter of yet," he said quietly. "Sometimes the point is that people change, and not always the way we expect. 2 years is not a short time. How did you keep in touch during your business trip? How often did you communicate?" I was silent. I came here to hear how I should move on with my life, not to understand Kelly's motives. But it looks like this conversation will go deeper than I expected. Dr. Williams was silent for a moment, then added, "Andrew, such conversations are always difficult. But in order to truly understand the situation, it is important to hear both sides. I offer you a joint consultation with Kelly. This may help you both figure out how to move forward. No pressure, no accusations, only honest dialogue. How do you feel about this?" I tensed up. The last thing I wanted was to see her again, hear her voice, discuss this hell she put me through. But for some reason I agreed. Dr. Williams continued, "You don't have to make a decision right away, but if you really want to move on, you must understand your feelings and give yourself a chance to express them. This doesn't mean you have to forgive her or restore the relationship. This means that you both need to close this chapter without destroying yourself." I took a deep breath. Everything inside me resisted this thought, but there was something that didn't give me the strength to just leave. Helen. I remember how Kelly's eyes lit up with hope when she received that call. I saw how her hand shook as she held the phone, how she held her breath, listening to the voice on the other end of the line. Dr. Mark Williams, a psychologist who worked with Andrew, invited her for a consultation. He offered to meet, talk, and give me a chance to explain. It was the first ray of light in the pitchless darkness in which she had lived for the past 2 weeks. 2 agonizing weeks since that terrible day when Andrew learned the truth. I remember every minute of her suffering, every sleepless night filled with tears and attempts to find meaning in what happened. I remember Kelly getting ready for her first meeting. She sorted through her clothes, not knowing what to wear, what to say, how to behave. This was not just a meeting, it was her first test. She hadn't seen Andrew since she confessed to him, and she was paralyzed by fear. But despite this fear, she went. I waited for her to return, more nervous than I'd like to admit. And when she entered the house, her eyes were full of tears. I didn't ask any questions, I just hugged her and let her cry. She didn't say anything, just curled up on the sofa, like a child that no one could protect. I stroked her hair, whispering something soothing, although I didn't know if my words would help. And this happened again and again. After each consultation, she returned broken. I saw how hard each meeting was for her, how after each of them she looked even weaker, but at the same time stronger in spirit. She suffered, but did not retreat, and I couldn't help but be proud of it. I tried to support her as best I could. I made her hot tea, stroked her hair, and reminded her that she was not alone. But at the same time, I was tormented by my own thoughts. I couldn't help but think that I once had my chance. Her father and I were also madly in love, but we did not find the courage to fight. We gave up. They separated because it was easier, because they could not bear the weight of betrayal. I could not forgive. He began to fight. Sometimes at night I thought, what if I hadn't given up then? What if I had at least tried to understand why he did what he did? Perhaps our family would not have broken up. Perhaps Kelly would not have grown up in a house where there was only her mother. Perhaps she would learn to look at mistakes and forgiveness differently. Maybe she wouldn't have ended up in this hell. But regrets won't change the past. Now I saw my daughter in front of me, who day after day found the strength to fight. This was her path, and it was difficult, but she followed it to the end. She cried, fell, but got up again, and I was proud of her. Mom, I don't know how long I can stand this, Kelly once admitted, sitting opposite me in the kitchen. Her eyes were red, her face tired. Every meeting with him is torture. This pain in his eyes is the cause of which I became. I walked up to her, sat down next to her, and took her hand. He has a right to it, Kelly. But you must continue. She nodded, squeezing my fingers as if she was looking for some strength in it. She fought for her love, for her marriage, for faith in the future of her family, and I hoped that her path of repentance would not be in vain. Kelly, why did you do this, Kelly? Dr. Williams' voice was calm, but there was a keen attentiveness in it. He sat opposite, holding a notepad in his hands, although it seemed he didn't even take any notes. He didn't need notes to see right through me. I took a deep breath. This question has haunted me all these weeks. I asked myself this 1,000 times and never found an answer that sounded honest enough. But now I couldn't avoid it. I don't know. I began, but the doctor raised his hand, interrupting me. You know, you're just afraid to say it out loud. I clenched my fingers into fists. Perhaps I felt lost. I felt like I was trapped in loneliness, but at the same time I was afraid to tell Andrew about it. I knew that it was hard for him too, that he worked tirelessly for our future, and I didn't want to be another problem for him. I hid my pain, pushed it deeper, pretending that everything was fine. I felt so lonely without him. Are you talking about cooled feelings or about physical attraction? He clarified. Both. I looked at him, expecting condemnation, but his gaze remained calm. I loved Andrew. I still love him. But the alcohol, Lauren, the party atmosphere, I kind of passed out. I allowed myself to get lost in it. And this is the worst thing. Dr. Williams nodded, considering my words. The influence of the environment is a serious thing. Did Lauren often push you to do this kind of thing? She always thought I was too uptight. That I'm not living my life. I smiled nervously. Ironic, isn't it? In the end, she turned out to be right. I'm not right, he objected softly. You yourself chose this path. The environment could influence you, alcohol could reduce your self-control, but it was your choice. I closed my eyes, holding back tears. I already knew this, but it hurts to hear the truth from someone else. How did you feel at that moment? Dr. Williams looked at me carefully, as if studying my reaction. I tensed, looking away. This question was the most scary. I didn't want to answer. Emptiness, I whispered. There was emptiness inside me. I wasn't there. Not with my soul, not with my thoughts. It was. Like it wasn't happening to me. Like a bad dream that you can't get out of. The doctor nodded, but was in no hurry to speak. He waited for me to continue on my own. I clenched my fists and added in a trembling voice. But my body, it reacted differently. As if it had betrayed me. It was as if instincts had taken over where reason had long since turned off. This is the most disgusting thing. This is the most disgusting thing. I hate myself for how low I have fallen. After several weeks of therapy, the doctor suggested that we try to meet with Andrew outside of counseling sessions. I agreed, but inside I was trembling with fear. We met in a small cafe where we once loved to have breakfast. Andrew arrived on time, sat down opposite me, without even looking at me. I wanted to say so many things, but he spoke first. I don't know why I came, he said coldly. I guess I want to understand if we have a chance. My heart sank. He didn't reject the idea, but he wasn't sure either. Thank you for coming, I whispered. I know you're hurting. He finally looked at me. His gaze was tired, full of disappointment. Do you even understand what you did to me? I nodded, feeling a lump in my throat. Every day, every second, and if I could go back. But you can't, he interrupted. So what now? Weeks passed. We began to see each other more often, but these meetings were painfully tense, like a thin thread ready to break. I felt that Andrew was trying to be discreet, but he couldn't trust me completely. His gaze intent, studying seemed to be looking for hidden meaning in my words, secret signs in my gestures. He didn't say it out loud, but I knew. He was watching my every move, weighing every intonation, trying to figure out whether I was really here with him or if it was just an illusion. One evening, after dinner, he stayed longer than usual. We sat in the dimly lit living room, where the soft light of the lamp cast long shadows on the walls. We talked about trifles, about films, the weather, something else insignificant. About anything, just not to touch on what was pulsating between us, unresolved, heavy. And suddenly he fell silent. I looked at him, there was something broken, vulnerable in his eyes. I miss you so much, he said quietly, but his voice cut through the air like a blade. I froze. These words flared up in me with hot pain and pierced me to the very depths. Something inside me trembled, and I took a step forward. Slowly, carefully. Andrew didn't move away. His gaze darted, as if he was still struggling with himself, but I already felt that he was giving up. I moved even closer. The warmth of his skin, his light breathing, everything was so familiar and, at the same time, almost forgotten. And then our lips met. At first, carefully, as if we were checking whether we had completely crashed. Then greedily, desperately, like two drowning people clinging to each other in a stormy sea. 2 years of separation, 2 years of pain and unspoken words, everything spilled out in this kiss, leaving us breathless. We didn't think so. We just let ourselves get lost in each other. Andrew. One moment, and the mind turned off. She looked at me the same way she did before. With prayer, with longing, with pain, but also with the same love that I once knew. Or maybe he wanted to see. Her eyes were filled with fear and hope at the same time, as if she was afraid that I would disappear, and at the same time did not believe that this moment was even happening. I stayed with her longer than I had planned. The conversations were cautious, as if we were walking on thin ice, trying not to fall through. We talked about trifles, about the weather, about her work, about how the apartment had changed. But behind these words, there was an abyss that we were both afraid to cross. Every question I wanted to ask hung in the air, unspoken, but painfully palpable. I felt like she was waiting for me to break down, for me to express all the pain that was burning me from the inside, but I couldn't. Not now. I remember who took the first step. Maybe it was her, or maybe it was me. Everything was blurry, as if in a fog. Our lips met, and all words, all doubts, all pain disappeared. All that remained was her touch, her smell, her warmth. I didn't think, didn't analyze. At that moment, I was just with her. When it was over, Kelly fell asleep almost immediately. I looked at her, studied every feature of her face. She seemed so fragile, so tired. It was as if I was fighting with the whole world and losing every day. I couldn't sleep. I lay next to her, listening to her breathing, and realized that it was time to decide something. I couldn't stay stuck in this state of purgatory between hate and desire forever. Either I forgive her, or I leave completely. There is no third option. When the sky began to lighten, I quietly stood up. He got dressed, avoiding unnecessary noise, and went to the door. He turned around for the last time. She was sleeping, curled up in a warm ball, as if she was hiding from the whole world. Richard. I sit on a low wooden bench near the old playground, watching my grandchildren and feeling my heart clench and unclench with emotions overwhelming me. The sun's rays lazily glide across the green grass. The day turned out to be surprisingly warm, although recently it seemed that winter would not give up its position. A thin breeze plays with the leaves and every now and then touches my gray temples, as if trying to remind me of the mercilessness of time. But today, I don't want to think of time as an enemy. Now, looking at these two little miracles, James and Lily, I try my best to focus on the present, on what life gave me after so many years of tossing and mistakes. Mistakes. How strange it sounds when you say it out loud, and even stranger to realize that a mistake can destroy your whole life. People say, it was just one night, or it was just one thoughtless step. But it only takes one push for a huge wall to crack and eventually collapse. Looking at my grandchildren running through the grass, I remember myself in my youth. I remember how I was hopeful, confident, a little overconfident, and sometimes stupid. And unfortunately, I paid for this stupidity at too high a price. 30 years have passed, and I still feel the emptiness inside, and that bitter feeling of regret that time, no matter how hard it tried, could not completely erase from my soul. But now, at this moment, I still smile. My hand rests on my knee, my fingers tremble a little age, and excitement has accumulated. I feel some kind of quiet, warm joy spreading from within. The joy of having grandchildren. I never would have thought that this simple thought, I have grandchildren, would become such a strong consolation for me and such a source of pride. That's why I'm here today, on the playground near the small house of Kelly, my daughter, watching James run around like he's wound up, and Lily, calm and quiet, runs behind him at some distance, like a shadow, ready to support her brother if he falls or gets stuck in some bush. Once upon a time, I could not look at children without a bitter feeling of loss. After my divorce from Helen, many things began to seem meaningless to me. I lost my family through my own fault. I know for sure that only I am to blame, although for a long time I tried to justify myself with the situation, circumstances, fatigue. But no, on that day, 30 years ago, I showed weakness. I turned out to be a person not worthy of trust and respect. Just once. One moment that flashed and then took everything. I remember how Helen stood in the doorway and looked at me with wide open eyes, in which it seemed that it was not anger or even resentment that was frozen, but emptiness. It was even more painful than if she had thrown a tantrum. She just silently turned around and started packing her things. We didn't argue, didn't say loud words after all. Everything was already said by my actions. It was only when she left, holding 5-year-old Kelly's hand, that I realized that this quiet departure was louder in my ears than any screams. I wanted to stop her. I wanted to say something, but I seemed petrified. My courage, my determination, my "I can do anything" disappeared somewhere at that moment, and I still don't know why I didn't take a single step to return them, to get my family back. Thinking about this, I slowly turned my gaze from my grandchildren to the sky. Now rare clouds float in it, looking like shaggy islands. The sun either peeks out or hides behind them. When it comes out, everything around seems to come to life. The grass is brighter, the colors are richer, people's faces are warmer. When he hides, everything in the soul freezes and becomes quiet, almost sad. You know, sometimes it seems that my life, and any life, is like this sky. There are bright streaks, and there are clouds behind which we do not see the light. But sooner or later the cloud floats past, and the sun appears again. The only question is whether we will have time to understand that it is still shining, or whether we will remain in our own darkness. I involuntarily smile when I see James stop abruptly in front of a flower bed to examine some kind of insect there. This boy is a real fidget, always spinning around, asking questions, looking for answers. Sometimes he so sincerely wants to know everything in the world that I don't have time to find the necessary explanations for him. His green eyes sparkled with curiosity. They sparkled the same way when he asked me yesterday why I have such deep wrinkles on my forehead and why older people's hands tremble. I involuntarily feel a warm lump in my throat, remembering these childhood questions, full of sincere interest. My grandchildren look at me as a person who knows all the secrets of the universe, but I often feel that I myself have no idea how this world works. But I still try to answer as best I can so as not to disappoint them. When I look at James, I see an echo of my daughter, Kelly, in him. She, too, always had that unruly wave of brown hair and that sparkle in her eyes as she doggedly tried to find answers to all her whys. I remember her running around the yard holding a teddy bear and trying to catch a wasp in a jar with holes in the lid for a science experiment, as she called it at the time, and instead of praising her curiosity, I just waved her off. Daughter, I have things to do, I have work, I'm tired. How bitter it is now to remember that in the bustle of everyday life, I did not notice the most important joy, the time that I could spend with Kelly. When I divorced her mother, I thought it was all temporary. That in a week, in a month, in a maximum of a year, I will find a way to fix everything. I imagined that I would definitely come to them, kneel before Helen, ask for forgiveness, promise that everything would be different, and take them home. But life is a strange thing. Days turn into months, months into years, and so 30 years pass in loneliness and regret. No, of course, I did not live as a recluse. I tried to arrange my life, met with friends, even tried to start a relationship. But internally, I remained lonely because I understood that what I had destroyed could not be put back together. If you know deep down that it's your fault, it's often easier to run away from the memories than to try to make things right. I ran away. Not physically, of course, but internally closed. And I admit this only now, to myself, sitting here, among children's voices and laughter. Grandfather. Lily, my little granddaughter, suddenly calls out to me, jerking me out of my thoughts. The girl slowly walks towards me, her blonde hair unraveling in the wind and falling out of her braids. She climbs a little awkwardly onto the bench and sits down next to him. Her blue eyes look at me so seriously that I am momentarily lost. In general, Lily often looks with such piercing attentiveness as if she were not 6 years old, but at least 36. It's as if invisible waves of empathy and understanding are passing through her subtle soul. James is fire and Lily is water. And it seems to me that it is she, despite her youth, who already knows how to subtly sense my mood. What are you thinking about? She asks the question calmly, like an adult making coffee in the morning. I smile and, following an impulse, sit her on my lap. She lays down as usual and hugs me around the neck. Well, I'm looking at you too and thinking about how life can bring surprises, I say, feeling the pleasant weight of her baby head on my shoulder, and how sometimes mistakes make us stronger, if we find the strength to correct them. She frowns. I feel her forehead touching my chin. Lily probably doesn't fully understand the essence of my words, but she takes them seriously. I feel how she absorbs every intonation with her whole being. Children are so sensitive to us adults. They don't need a lot of words. They read a person's state with their heart. If I had learned this ability in due time, perhaps I would have avoided disaster. Have you corrected your mistake too? Lily suddenly asks quietly, and my breath catches. How she hits the mark. Little children know how to ask the most difficult questions that we, adults, are at a loss for. Because there is no easy answer. I run my palm through her hair, feeling its silky texture, and exhale with some kind of internal pain. No, my dear, I say, didn't fix it. But your mom did it. And thanks to her, I have you and James. And this is the best thing that could happen to me. Lily doesn't say anything. She just hugs me tighter and puts her head on my shoulder again. And everything in me shrinks from the realization that at her age I, too, probably asked myself and the world questions to which I did not receive answers. We were all children, but over the years we forgot how difficult it is to live with an open soul. I look at James. He has started the race again, trying to catch up with the pigeon, which manages to fly here and there. A funny picture. A boy is running as fast as he can, waving his arms, almost shouting, "Stop!" I smile internally and feel tears slightly burning my eyes. You know, these tears that come not from grief, but from an overflow of emotions, when joy is mixed with the bitterness of memories. Careful not to disturb Lily, I tilt my head so that my chin just touches the top of her head. I hear how she breathes, how her childish heart beats. And at this moment, I realize this is happiness. Just sitting next to her, feeling her trust, her warm little hands, and knowing that she is a piece of my blood, my future, my joy, my redeeming grace. It was as if someone from above gave me the opportunity to experience what I missed with my daughter. I involuntarily begin to remember Kelly as a little girl, her trusting smile, and how happy she was always to see me at home. And then the day my family collapsed flashes before my eyes. Before Helen left, Kelly ran up to me in tears, wrapped her little arms around my legs, and asked, "Dad, are we coming back?" I couldn't answer then. He just stood there, looked at her, and then she went after her mother, and the door slammed. There is nothing worse than betraying the trust of your own child. It hurt me, and I'm sure it hurt her even more. But I found the cowardice in myself to close myself and not make a single movement towards. The years passed. Kelly grew up, and I saw her only occasionally when I came for birthdays, when I sent her gifts for Christmas, or when I managed to get out to the city where they lived. I remember how she looked at me reservedly and a little warily, as if she did not understand who I was to her now. Not an enemy, not a friend, just a stranger, but at the same time a father. And my shame, my guilt grew inside like a snowball. It seemed that I realized too late that I had missed the most precious thing. However, time does not stand still. Kelly graduated from school, entered university, and there she met Andrew. I learned about this quite by accident from a mutual friend, and only a few months later I plucked up the courage to come visit her to congratulate her on her diploma. I brought a bouquet of roses. I looked so ridiculous in a formal suit. She was glad to see me, if by joy you mean a polite smile and a careful attempt to find a few neutral topics for conversation. I felt this awkwardness in our every gesture and understood that there was an abyss between us. But at least she didn't chase me away or turn away, and I, stuttering and confused in words, tried to ask about her personal life. Frankly, I was scared to even think that my daughter might have a guy she loves, and I was the last to know about it. Years passed like this. Kelly married Andrew, and I attended the wedding, although I stood quietly in the corner for most of the evening, trying not to attract attention, and no one was particularly keen to talk to me. And yet, when they approached the table, I saw Kelly carefully gathering the strength to say, "Dad, thank you for coming." I then dropped my glass of champagne out of awkwardness. Frightened waiters, confused looks from guests. Nothing pleasant, but I was happy, no matter what, because my daughter was so beautiful and smiled so sincerely at her new husband. And then something happened that I found out about much later. On the last day, when Kelly was waiting for Andrew from a business trip, she stumbled. She also had that one moment of weakness. She obeyed the momentary desire. I know that it was not vanity or mischief, not an attempt to take revenge or change the situation, but simply a human mistake, when you are confused, when you lack warmth, and your loved one is far away. But Kelly didn't give up. She, unlike me, did not run away from the problem and did not hide behind her own "I can't" or "I'm too scared." She found the courage to confess everything to her husband, go with him through pain, through tears, through difficult conversations and reproaches, and ultimately saved her family. Kelly found the path to forgiveness that I was not looking for. And you know, I am infinitely proud of this. Yes, I know what it sounds like. Proud of my daughter's mistake. No, I'm proud that she didn't leave everything to chance. She found the strength to stay and prove that love is worth fighting for. I remember how I became aware of her betrayal. She called me herself and told me everything directly, without concealment. From that conversation, our rapprochement with her began. I feel Lily move slightly on my lap and is now looking closely at James's face, who is shouting something triumphantly joyful, waving his arms. In many ways, my grandchildren symbolize this new stage in my relationship with Kelly. When she went through a crisis with Andrew and then told me that she was expecting a child, I didn't even believe it at first. I didn't imagine that I would have grandchildren. Perhaps deep down I thought that I didn't deserve such joy. However, the birth of James was a real second chance for me, a chance to have a hand in raising a new life, a chance to see happiness where I once saw only ruins. Then Lily was born, and this was another gift of fate. I have seen Kelly and Andrew's family grow stronger. They talked a lot, cried a lot, laughed a lot, trying not to repeat the mistakes of the past. And now I'm sitting here on the site, my grandchildren next to me. This is the moment when the present is intertwined with memories, and it's as if I'm looking at my life from the outside. Everything seems so simple now. Two children play, laugh, the world around them is kind and bright. I am also in their world, although already with experience, with a baggage of mistakes and losses. But it is their laughter that gives me hope. Mistakes do not always kill us, sometimes they teach us. It's a pity that we realize some lessons when it's too late to change something. But late does not mean never. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.